Okay, good morning to all. First of all, a warm welcome to all participants. This is Gaurav from miniOrange, and I'm having entire engineering team which will present the entire, the demo and the offerings of miniOrange. So today's webinar is about Zero Trust and IAM and how they are closely correlated and how we can build a secure future in the organization. So this webinar is in collaboration with our trusted partner, SecureFlow. We have a global presence with respect to the customer as well as with respect to the partners. So this is our 13th year. miniOrange is on the 13th year. 20,000 plus customers globally. We are into 100 plus odd countries. We have built 50 plus security products in the domain of identity and access management. And we have a catalog of around 6,000 plus applications, which can be easily configured by using single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. So we are into this cybersecurity ecosystem from last 13 odd years, solving the problems around the identities, either through an IDP or through as a broker. And this webinar, we would really like to thank our partner, SecureFlow, who is, which is US-based organization. They are our partner from the long time. So I'm having in call the founder and CEO, Jotin Gambhir. So I'd like to thank Jotin and his entire team for collaboration and looking forward to working with them, in this cybersecurity domain. Jotin, over to you for the brief introduction about SecureFlow.
Sure. Thank you, Gaurav. So welcome everyone on this conference. We are very glad to have this conference with miniOrange. And we've seen something very unique in miniOrange in what they're offering to the market. Of course, there are lots of solutions in this space in identity and access management and zero trust. There's a uniqueness in what they offer. But before we go into that, I'll talk a little bit about SecureFlow. We are based in Boston, Massachusetts. We've been in business since 2012. Our focus is cybersecurity and resilient services, which actually means that we focus across the board, starting with the risk and risk management across compliance and standards, focused on business requirements as opposed to technology only. So, from a healthcare, financial services, biotech, SaaS, oil and energy, retail, we focus on the business problems before we come up with solutions, because the solution can be a process solution, not always a technology solution. And that's what we've learned across our industry experience. As I said, not only are we focused on managing risk, but the importance here around identity and access management and why we went ahead with talking and partnering with miniOrange was primarily because with risk, access control is a big aspect, and access control, as you know, has multiple pieces to it, which includes everything from strong authentication authorization, but also single sign-on, CASB, MFA, etc. And there has been an increase in insider threats, and there has been a lot of increase in overall issues around identity and access management, especially because a lot of companies come with box products that don't integrate with each other. miniOrange is unique in that they provide that capability to integrate with directories, to integrate with SaaS solutions. And so we are glad to have this partnership, and we're looking forward to a long-standing partnership in the North American market with miniOrange. With that, I will transfer it back to Gaurav to go through what they offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jotin. And I think in this cybersecurity evolving field, the trusted partner like SecureFlow is always a fuel to run in the longer run. I would also like to thank many of our partners from South American region and also from Canada region who has assisted us, in gathering the momentum in the region, which includes Oscar, my good friend Oscar from Active Trainer, Daniel from Tickway from the Brazil region, and also Saif from Canada region, who leads the organization Secured Approach. To all the participants, there is very important information that if you have any questions in between, you can always post that question in Q&A section. Also, there is a chat section where you can ask your questions, doubts. We are having an engineering team also on board who can answer to your queries. Towards the end of this webinar, around 45 to 50 minutes, we will have an open-ended conversations with our expertise team. You can ask the questions and you can raise the hand, and we'll allow you to interact with the team as well. So in between, if there are any questions, you are free to post that in our chat window, and I think team will be there to answer those. So starting with the webinar, the why. So we'll not talk much about, the basically accolades, what miniOrange got in the international market. But I would like to say that from last 5 to 6 years, we have been rated as one of the most popularly rated as IDP. This year, the Gartner has rated us as strong performer. We are directly having a head-on fight with CyberArk and Oracle. And this is all possible because, it's been completely customer-focused company. We value customers' input. We take the feedback from them. And definitely, we are known in the market for 24/7 support as well. So when you talk about the Zero Trust is basically a concept. It's not the product itself. So it's a strategy where you define some rules, some set of principles, and then you trust that architecture so that your most valuable assets and endpoints can be protected against all kinds of attacks. That attacks can be an external attacks, that attacks can be an internal attacks. So in Zero Trust Network, you assume that all devices, users, external users, vendors, connections that are potentially compromised. And this whole process starts with how your identities are managed. And it is always said that there is always a chaos in the ecosystem if identities are mismanaged. And that's why the first piece of puzzle you need to solve is basically who is accessing, what they are accessing, and how they are accessing. So when you answer these 3 points, you will be fixing the first basic element of cybersecurity, which is nothing but verification and authentication. Then the second point comes around the Zero Trust is implementation of least privilege access policies, which is basically you must be having an admins, and admins must be having some rights, and all kinds of attacks which are happening from last 10 odd years. Majorly, these attacks are from internal, from the internal landscape. The admins which are having an excessive rights, excessive privilege, they tend to go in certain directions, which leads to compromise in the organization infrastructure. So how you can continuously monitor and analyze them, as well as how you can analyze the traffic for anomalies as well. Zero Trust also talks about a lot about the encryption of data, whether it is in transit or is it at rest. It always talk about not the centralized piece. It always talk about the segmentation that you need to do, and there should not be a single failure or single contact to that specific failure. You need to implement the policies around it. You need to have a dashboard where you can actually see what exactly is happening, who is accessing what, and if something is compromised, then how the lateral movements can be stopped. And when people generally comes to us for any kind of, pain points, we generally ask, the first question is how you are managing your identities. And that has very strong correlation with identity and access management space. So today in this demo, in this webinar, we'll be highlighting the importance of Zero Trust, but also its strong correlation with identity and access management space, and where the miniOrange can contribute to make you a secure infrastructure, and how 20,000 plus customers globally are trusting miniOrange. We have products like consumer identity and access management, which generally people call CIAM. We have employee identity and access management. In that, we have various facets. We have single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. We also have user provisioning. We have adaptive authentication. We talk about lot about converged IAM, which is basically an extension of identity and access management, which takes care of privilege access management. We also have a CASB. We have DLP and MDM solution as well. So in a single umbrella, we can address customers' pain point to ensure that their infrastructure is secured, their endpoints are secured. We also have other facet, which is basically a plugin site. We are present in most of the marketplaces like Atlassian, WordPress, Drupal, Shopify, Magento, to secure those marketplaces. We are known as popular plugin vendor when it comes to single sign-on for Jira, Bitbucket, Confluence, user lifecycle management. And in WordPress also, we saw a lot of security solutions around it. And proudly, we can say that we have deployment option to be on-premises as well as cloud. We saw in both the directions as well. And what I was talking is about the Gartner Peer Insight recently in April 2024. If you read the report, miniOrange is served as a strong performer in this segment, which is a very proud moment for all of us. And this 13 years of serving the customer base with their pain points, addressing them, tailoring, the miniOrange solution offering according to the critical infrastructure what customer is having, serving them 24/7. This is, the feedback what we got from the market. This is the contribution of all 600 odd engineers of miniOrange, and definitely the customer as well, that resulted into this day. We are strong performer in Gartner, in cybersecurity rating agencies like G2 and Capterra. We are known to be a best ROI vendor from last 4 to 5 odd years. So then comes the next question is, what are our USP? So as I mentioned, we have the cloud as well as on-premise deployment. We are having a unique integrations. We listen to the customers. We have tailor-made solutions. And always customization is one of the area where most of the larger organizations tend to shy away from it. But miniOrange is known in the market for right price point and customized solution as well. As mentioned, the end user definitely get the easy or simple user experience, but admin loves our product. It is so easy that within 15 to 20 minutes, our admin can configure the product for their entire organizations. We have many strong use cases where we have shown that in 5,000 to 10,000 user base, it is very easy to deploy miniOrange solution. And 24/7 support, we work across 5 time zones. Specifically, majority of our business comes from this US and South America region. And all of our engineers working around the clock to ensure continuity of, our clients' businesses by securing their infrastructure. As mentioned, we are proud to say that we are serving as of now 20,000 plus customers globally. So let's start with today's session, and more details about identity and access management. What we'll be covering on, we'll be showcasing the live demos of all this offering, which leads to the Zero Trust architecture. Definitely the first point would be the single sign-on, because there are tons of application in any organizations, and it's not possible for any employee to remember user ID and password of each and every applications, and that leads to unwanted events, and that needs to be secured first. So definitely single sign-on comes into the picture. I'm proud to say that miniOrange is one amongst the potential vendor in the market who is having capability to do single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication on any web-based application. Be the application which supports standard protocol like SAML and OAuth. As I mentioned, we are having a catalog of around 6,000 plus applications where you can simply go to our admin dashboard, see the applications. If your application is amongst that 6,000 thing, it will be done and dusted in 5 or 10 odd minutes. But if there are some applications which is developed by third party or by engineering team, and if they are not compatible with single sign-on and multi-factor authentication, we do give them the connector, and that connector makes those applications compatible with single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. So we come across various solutions like various organizations where they are having some Java-based internal applications which their team has made, and that is not compatible with single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. So we give them a Java-based connectors which will make that application, easily follow the single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. Similarly, there are legacy applications like SAP and Oracle. They are typically an header-based authentication they follow. For that also, we are having a proxy-based solution. So, in a nutshell, miniOrange gives you a single dashboard where you can bring all your heterogeneous applications onto a single platform and can do single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication. Coming back to the second pillar of identity and access management, the Zero Trust network, which is multi-factor authentication and which is compliance across the globe. This has been the piece which is alive from last 25 odd years and will be there, in times to come. The reason is it's simple, easy to use, easy to follow, and definitely can prevent many attacks. If you would have seen your social accounts like Facebook or even Instagram, they also advocate you to enable the 2FA. But most of our organization, most of our people who are using it, they generally tend to shy away from it. It's very important because it is said in the latest report always that 80% of the attacks can be stopped if you deploy MFA on top of applications, on top of workstations, on top of servers you use. And I'm proud to say that miniOrange is one amongst the potential vendor in the market who is having a capability to deploy multi-factor authentication over entire infrastructure. When I say entire infrastructure, I mean to say that we protect your Windows, Linux, Mac system, we protect your workstations with MFA, we protect your VPN, we protect network devices, routers, switches, and firewalls. Generally, you require a combination of 2 to 3 vendors to deploy an extra layer of MFA over your entire infrastructure, but miniOrange has developed the in-house capability of single-handedly to deploy MFA over entire infrastructure. And, this has been, so we are safeguarding the customer's infrastructure by deploying an additional layer of MFA. Then comes the third part, which is adaptive authentication, which became popular post-COVID era, where if the employer wants to restrict the employees not only based on the user credential, but also with respect to time, IP, device, and location, we do the risk-based authentication. So we can bind the user to specific device, we can bind the user to specific application and to specific device. And similarly, IP, if we want to whitelist some IPs, location, time of access, we can do a lot of things in that. Many a time the use case comes around that in an organization, employer don't want their user to open their personal Gmail address, because there has been instances in the past where the employee can open their personal Gmail, load the company's critical infrastructure data and send it to the competitor or use it otherwise. So we can stop that. Most of the time nowadays organization is giving trusted devices, laptops and all that stuff. So if organization wants specific application to get opened on specific device, we can restrict that as well. So let's say If organization want Office 365 to get open only from a specific laptop or a workstation, we can do that. So that comes under the risk-based authentication. We can bind the user to specific device. We can even bind the user to specific applications as well. Then comes the user lifecycle management, which is one of the most important part, where we are taking care of the entire automation of user lifecycle management, where we are managing that the user, when it gets onboarded first time when any employee joins the company, his or her profile gets created in any of the HRMS or CRMS systems, or even in Active Directory. And then the real hustle starts, because then the manager or the admin has to give that specific employee access to certain applications. And that is completely a manual work. It might take 7 days of time, it might take 10 days of time, but that is not the original point. The pain point here is, over the period of time, the employee will have an access to certain set of applications, and even the manager is not aware about it. Employee is not only present in one of the HRMS systems, employee is present with different attributes in different databases, and those databases are connected to organization critical infrastructure. So one fine day, whenever the employee leaves the company, manager is aware about that his profile is created in one of the HRMS system. He deletes the profile from the HRMS system. But there are multiple databases in which that employee presence is there. And that multiple databases are connected to organizations' critical infrastructure, might be an application. And you would have seen a numerous example where the employee left the organization, but they are having still access to organization critical infrastructure. This is happening because it is a manual work. Now we solve this problem by designing a miniOrange broker, in that we find role-based access, where in the role-based access you define that in a group which applications has to be accessed, and when, for example, if a particular employee gets promoted, for example, manager to senior manager, or even at some other level, what applications access can be granted. So entire user lifecycle management, starting from onboarding to the provisioning to specific application, and also deprovisioning, can be done in a single click. And this is very much applicable to the current scenario, where a lot of onboarding is happening, lot of external actors are playing critical role in organization critical infrastructure, be it external vendors, be it your third-party software company, be it the organization who is doing some kind of business and continuously interacting with the client infrastructure. This kind of automation is always easy to manage all the roles, give the admin or the management a dashboard through which they can actually see what's happening. So this is also a part of an IGA governing, which comes under the user lifecycle management. Then we have a PAM in a place. We will be having a showcasing the demo of PAM, where we'll talk about what are our positive points. Better to say what are our features as compared to what competitors are offering. But this is also one of the very critical element in Zero Trust, building Zero Trust, because all it starts from, privilege session management and recording. All it starts from how you're auditing it. All it starts from how you are saving your password, how you are rotating your password, how you are ensuring that there is a fine-grained access control. And all these things are possible with miniOrange PAM, and PAM is the critical point in implementing Zero Trust. To tell you the few USPs about our PAM can be deployed cloud as well as on-premise. It's agentless. We also have a module called as, we do a lot of customization according to the client infrastructure. And definitely we have a module in that, which is pay-as-you-go module, because generally if you see the competitor in the PAM space, they come with 50 odd features, and then the pricing become too much heavy. Sometimes SMB segment only require 3 to 4 features, like for the compliance point of view. They require a dashboard where they can manage the RDP and SSL session. They require some kind of, recording facility. So with perspective to that, we have come up with a concept called as pay-as-you-go model. So you have to just pick the components, and based on that components, you will be, valued. So that is our plan. So it's a time for a short poll where the poll can be easily seen on your screen. We will take a minute pause and then we'll take it further from there. So if you have any questions, you can always ask in the chat, and definitely there will be a team who will be answering that. And towards the end of this webinar, certainly we will have an interactive session, where, we can highlight some of your questions. If you have any doubts, if you have any concerns, we would be happy to interact with you guys. Okay, I hope you would have answered few of the poll part. So why choose miniOrange? As I mentioned, we are a one-stop solution. We are known in the market for the right price point. We are known in the market for better product capabilities, feature-wise, 24/7 support. And definitely in every odd region, we have a huge customer base to cater to. Be it Intel, NASA, Bank of America, Walt Disney, Colibri, Larsen and Toubro, John Hopkins University. These are all our customers. US Customer and Border Protection, Fisher Phillips. So you can just go to miniorange.com/customers. You'll find we serve the customers from entertainment industry, from healthcare, from IT. So we have customers even from the government organizations and even the NGO as well. US Navy, US Army, CGI Federal. We have a good presence in South American and North American region as well. Goldman Sachs is our customer, Green Dot, Airways Bank, and so many and so forth and so forth. So we have a good presence across the globe, be it the European nations, be it the UK, be it the Australian, be it the Middle East. And we have various strong use cases where customers are using us for 8 to 10 million user licenses from us. So that shows our capability, whether it is on-premises or it's cloud. World Trade Center, Dubai World Trade Center is our client. We have a server hosted in US, Europe, and Australia. And that's a very quick overview of what we are capable of implementing. We'll be showcasing the entire Zero Trust network to you. And definitely would like to hear from you once the webinar gets over. So now I am passing the control to my colleague, Mr. Mahesh, who will showcase you the SSO offerings, who will showcase you what the capability we have when it comes to the, doing a single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication. So over to you, Mahesh.
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. This is Mahesh. And as Gaurav clearly mentioned that for the IAM or Zero Trust, the stepping stone is your single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication. So I'll present you the live demo for the same. What I have set up is single sign-on and MFA for two of our applications. One is my email, which is Office 365. And second application is going to be Salesforce. And in this, the authentication happens from my Active Directory and MFA is Google Authenticator. So there are two ways how we do single sign-on. First is once the user lands on the application directly. And the second way is that the user accesses the console. So I'll show you both the ways how it is done. So if I go on my application and click on sign in, I'll just enter my username or email. Based on that, it is going to redirect me to the login page of miniOrange, where I'll enter my username and password. So again, this page is completely customizable. We can match your organization's theme, a logo, each and everything. Now, once first factor is validated, you can select your two-factor method. For now, it is Google Authenticator. So I'll enter the 6-digit code that I've got on my phone. And then it is going to validate the second factor and then give me access to the application. So this process is very easy. Now, any application that I try to access afterwards is going to be very seamless. So let's try for our Salesforce. As the session for that specific user is already created, when I click login with our demo instance, the same user that logged in into Office 365 has been logged in into Salesforce as well. So any n number of applications that you configure with miniOrange, the user experience is going to be as seamless as this. So the second method that I mentioned for the users is where each and every user will have a self-service console of their own from where they can access the application. So the user can just access their application with the AD credentials. They will land on this dashboard, and from here simply click on whatever application that they want to access, and there you go. So this whole process is very seamless and easy, and the same easiness is carried forward to the admin side of thing. As Gaurav mentioned, that our product is loved by the admins as well. So this is the admin dashboard. In the first two sections, you can set up your identity providers or external directories. This is basically your authentication source, which can be Active Directory, any database, existing identity provider, or anything. Second part is for your applications. So as Gaurav mentioned, we have more than 5,000 integrations with all standard protocols, SAML, OAuth, JWT. We can connect to your networking devices, Windows logins, and many more. So just to show you a sample list, there's a huge list of applications that is available here. You can just search your application and the integration is just a couple of minutes job. Once your applications are also set, on top of that, you can set up multiple policies. You can set up two-factor authentication, all the methods that are available, SMS, email, authenticator apps. We have our own authenticator app. There is call verification, hardware tokens, and many more. And this is completely configurable according to your requirement. Similarly, you can go for adaptive authentication, which is restriction based on the IP, the device, the location, and the time of access. So all these policies can be configured according to your security requirements and any policy that you want to follow. The last part here is for the user management, where all my users will be visible. Any admin operations like editing the user, changing the second factor, reset user, delete user, disable user, all those functions can be performed from here. So this is a high-level overview of how single sign-on and MFA works, both in the perspective of the end user as well as how easy it is for the admin to configure and have a greater visibility of the applications. And everything, each audit, each login is present in the report section. So at any given point of time, you can always fetch the reports to see which user has tried to access which application. So that's it about the single sign-on and MFA part. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you, Mahesh. I think it was very comprehensive demo where you have showcased, the capabilities of single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication. And this has been the primary focus for most of our customers, where they want to bring all the different applications that their customer is using, or their, entire organization is using into a single umbrella, where they try to bring them into in a structured way. And miniOrange is doing it for many of the customers, single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication. And we are proud to say that we are having 6,000 plus application itself is a tremendous achievement. Our engineering team has worked day in and day out to make this integration possible. And over to the most important part of this webinar is multi-factor authentication. So you definitely will witness how comprehensive is our MFA solution, whether it is protecting your workstations, Windows, Linux, Mac machines, VPNs, network devices, routers, switches, and firewall. I'm having my colleague, Mr. Pradeep, who is senior software engineer and also take care of the pack, who will present you the demo of MFA. So over to you, Pradeep.
Hi, Gaurav. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I hope my screen is visible. Okay. So as Gaurav mentioned and Mahesh mentioned, so we do support multi-factor authentication for all of your application. That includes VPN, firewalls, Wi-Fi routers, Windows, Linux, Mac devices, and even your web applications as well. So over here, as Mahesh said, that we do support 15 plus authentication methods, something like OTP or SMS, email, authenticator apps, and even the miniOrange Authenticator app, where you can get features like push notification. Regarding the applications, as I mentioned again, we do support it for all these applications. I'll just show you a quick demo of how exactly the experience will be when the user tries to authenticate in a VPN or when the user tries to authenticate into a desktop device. So once I click on any VPN, in this particular case, I'm having Fortinet as my VPN. I'll be entering my username and password over here. And once I enter my username and password, it basically communicates with miniOrange using the Radius protocol. So we do support multiple protocols that includes Radius, TechX, and even some custom protocols like Windows. So over here, it sends me a push notification on this phone. I accepted it, and it basically communicated again with the VPN and created my session over here. So once I'm connected, I'm allowed to use the same way as I'm allowed to use as a VPN. The same way we have support for Windows, Linux, and many devices. In this particular demo, I'll be covering it with the Windows device. Over here, this is my Windows device. This includes all type of devices. It can be your RDP servers, it can be your RD gateway, RD web, and wherever you wanted to have multi-factor authentication, with the help of miniOrange connector, you can have it. In this particular case, I'm logging into an RDP server, entering my user and password. Once I click on this login button, it basically communicates with my phone. This is the part of my phone screen where I'll get a notification on my phone. I can approve it and deny it. If I approve it, it will allow me to log in. So this is basic part of the MFA. We also support devices like routers, switches, and even access points. So when we talk about routers, switches, and access points, they do support two type of protocols. One is Radius and the other is TechX. So if I go to this TechX option, this is for the part of AAA. When I say AAA, it is about authentication, authorization, and accounting as well. Over here, there are different type of devices which are mentioned over here, like Huawei, Nokia, Cumulus, Cisco. You might be using some of them in your infrastructure as well. So if you wanted to protect them as well, because this is your kind level of security where anybody can breach it because there's no authentication or authorization. So with the help of miniOrange TechX solution, you can basically have AAA on top of that, which basically allows you to authenticate, authorize, and accounting is as well. So in this particular case, I have a router over here. When I try to authenticate into this router, I'll just enter some command. It will basically communicate with the miniOrange server and bring the success to me if my password is correct. If my password is wrong, it will basically say that it is a failure. All these commands, all these activities which I'm doing over here, they are being recorded as well. Whatever the command I will type, that will also be recorded. And whatever the authentication I will do, I can see that over here. So in this particular case, this user has authenticator where you can see that the user was success and a failure as well. The last attempt was a fail, so it is showing a fail attempt over here. The same way you can track the commands as well, like what commands the user are allowed to have access of. So if I go to this manage vendor section, I can have different type of devices and I can define different level of privileges as well. So if I go to this edit capabilities, I can define which level of commands the user are allowed to run. If they're not allowed to run shutdown commands or some sort of commands like that, you can basically block it over here and the user will not be able to perform that specific command. So this is about how the multi-factor authentication or the AAA works. Again, as Mahesh mentioned in the start itself, so we do support MFA for all type of devices, all type of your router switches, and even if you have some web applications, or even if you have some sort of desktop applications or mobile applications. So anywhere, wherever you wanted to have multi-factor authentication, miniOrange is a solution for you. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep. So as you know, many organizations, international organizations are always supporting that we should have MFA on top of the entire infrastructure. The first starting point where the user log in into the servers or log in into the system, whether it's Windows, Linux, and Mac systems, so that should get protected. Then comes your VPN, that should get protected. Then comes your applications, network devices, firewalls, that should have an additional MFA in the place. So whether you're using any kind of VPN, whether you're using Linux system, any flavors of Linux, whether you're using a Mac system in that, any flavors of Mac, miniOrange is having a capability to deploy MFA. And that has been a part of many compliance across it. So next point is the part of a Zero Trust is user provisioning, where we will be showcasing you how we can be integrating with any of the HRMS or CRMS systems or even Active Directory, and how we can provision the role-based access, how we manage the user, how we manage the applications, and how authentication is done. So for this demo, again, I will transfer the call to Mr. Mahesh, who will be showcasing the user provisioning. Over to you.
Thank you, Gaurav, once again. So I'll quickly share my screen so that we can go through that. In the meantime, user provisioning has become a crucial part because managing your users' identities across your platforms in the traditional way is very manually dependent and prone to a lot of errors. Okay, so the lifecycle management, where the complete process is automated and within a single click, is an important factor of your security posture. So for the demo, what I have set up is basically I have a source of truth, which is my Azure AD, where all my user creation happens. miniOrange is going to act as a broker here, and my target application in this scenario is going to be AWS, but it can be any target application which can be configured with miniOrange. So the typical flow here is going to be where I create a user in my source of truth. It can be an HRMS system, your Azure, your on-premise AD, or anything. While creating the user, I'm going to assign a specific attribute, which can be a designation, role, team, or anything. Based on that role or attribute that you assign to the user is going to be created in the target applications. Okay, so I have defined two roles here. One is the network and one is the tech team. So as soon as I give this department to that specific user, he will be created in my target application. And once that is done, the user is ready with the right access to start working. Okay, so let's move on to the actual demo where I will show you the complete flow and the level to which it is automated. So it is not only about the user creation, but the complete life cycle, which includes creation, updation, deletion as well. So let's go and check the first part wherein all my users are present in Azure. Let us create a new user. I'll give any random name to this user. It can be Johnny, just for example. Okay, my display name again can be Johnny K. So this is just a random name which came into my mind right now. If I go to properties, I'll have to define some additional details of the user. And here you can see that there is a department that I need to give. So now you can define whether it has to be governed by the job title, the department, or the employee type, anything. So let me assign this as networks group. I'll review the user. So this is all good to go. This is my new employee who's going to join into the organization. Let me create that user. The user has been created successfully. And then you can see that my target application here is going to be AWS. So there are multiple ways how we do the provisioning. The provisioning can be on demand. It can be scheduled. It can be in real time. There are multiple ways. So for this instance, we'll do a on demand provisioning. So once I click on that, I can just search for my user. So that is going to be Johnny K, and simply click on provision. There I go. So the user has been provisioned into my target application. Now to see this, we'll first check if the user has been created in the middleware, that is miniOrange. So I'll go to the users in miniOrange. So there you go. The user Johnny K is available here, and it should also go into the right group, which is my AWS networks. So if you go and check into that, again, the Johnny K user is available here. Let us check my target application. Here so there are two groups, tech and networks. Okay, as I mentioned, these are the departments, whatever you want to define. So in my AWS networks group, this user Johnny K has been created. So this is the level of simplicity that we can provide, and this level of automation can be provided through our tool, where any updates that are made to the user also will be synced. If the user is deleted from my source of truth, that is also going to be synced. So at any point, my complete system is going to be in a sync, wherein my complete user management can be done from single portal. So for each and every action, again, reports are available. If I want to go and see which user was created, which user in which application, at what time, each and everything, just go to the report section. There you go. This user that I created right now, the member was added successfully, at what time the user was added, then which target application the user was created in, from which application the user emerged. Each and everything is going to be available in the report section. So you have complete visibility and control over your user creation and the complete lifecycle management. So this is mostly it regarding the user provisioning, which consists of my user creation, updation, as well as deletion seamlessly across all my target applications. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you, Mahesh, for the demo. I think this demo is classical example of that we interact with any of the HRMS or CRMS systems or even with the Active Directory. And based on the role defined in the organization, it should be provisioned to certain applications. And it plays a very important role in maintaining the critical infrastructure to be secured. And I would also like to thank my colleague Saurabh Singhal, who has helped, to prepare this demo and assisted us in that part as well. Moving on towards a very critical element in protecting organizations' critical infrastructure is about PAM. And I'm having Pradeep in the call, who will showcase your PAM offering, basic feature sets, and also what PAM we are capable of. Over to you, Pradeep.
Thanks, Gaurav, again. I'll share my screen again just to demonstrate a quick diagram to you first of all. So when we talk about privileged access management, so there are different things which you wanted to protect. So your privileged users or your users who are having extra access can be in your operating system, can be in your endpoints like your laptops, mobile phones, can be in your network devices like routers, switches, can be in your databases like root users, admin users, or even in your cloud applications. It can be your AWS, Azure, Google Workspace, anywhere. So if you're using any of these tools, you must be having some sort of privileged users, which you wanted to protect. How PAM basically protects your privileged users is basically, instead of giving direct access to the users to these particular things, PAM becomes a middleman in between the user and the applications. So if a user wants any sort of access at any point of time, they have to go through the PAM server to reach to the destination. In this way, this PAM solution basically is a middleware which basically makes sure the user is doing only the activity which is required for him to do. It can also revert access or revert activities because it is the middleman in between. Also, because it is acting as a bridge between your users and the application, it can allow the users to have the access for certain period of time as well. And it can record and audit everything the users are doing. So this is basic overview about what this whole thing does. So there are multiple features, multiple functionalities. I'll go towards the demo part of the solution. So this is our dashboard. Again, in this solution, we do support cloud as well as on-premise option. Even if you wanted to have a hybrid option, that can also be done. There's what exactly is an asset? It is basically about securing your RDP servers, Linux servers, or even any sort of Unix servers or whatever the servers you are having, even the VMs. So over here, we do support all type of operating system as such, RDP, VNCs, and even if you have some custom one, that can also be supported. Once you add those resources, there are multiple ways to add those resources. One is manual and some other are automatic as well. Once you add those resources, you can give this access to different users. For example, if I wanted to give this access to this particular user for certain period of days or certain period of time, I can define it over here as well. Now, once the access has been given to any user, they can come into this dashboard. They will only have access to my asset tab or my application asset tab. So these tabs will be the only accessible tabs for them. Once they come over here and click on this access button, it basically communicates with that SSH machine and bring that SSH machine into your browser itself. Now, Whatever the activity the users can perform in the RDP machine, they can perform over here as well. The same way, they can do it for the RDP machines as well. Once I click on this access button, it will basically communicate with that Windows server and bring that Windows server in my browser itself. If you wanted to use your favorite tools like Putty, MovaXterm, or even RDP client, that can also be integrated with miniOrange PAM solution. Now, the activities these users are performing, the administrator can live record it and see it in the real time as well. So if I go to this real time session, I can view what exactly the users are doing. And if the user is doing any sort of illegitimate activity, I can terminate their session. So for example, if I try to refresh this, so I can see there's a refresh button this user is trying to open. If I wanted to terminate their session, I can just click on this terminate button and this will basically close their session as well. The same way, I can track the sessions for such machines as well. I can see which commands they're trying to perform and I can basically search for those commands as well. If I try to perform something over here, that will be reflected on the live view side as well. Once the session is over or the session has been expired by the administrator, so those sessions you can see in the recorded session and you can basically play this recording for any point of time. If you wanted to play this recording after 6 months or basically have this audit for 6 months, that can also be done. You can also search for the commands they have typed in. Now I'll go back to the admin dashboard. So this is about operating system protection. The same way we can protect your databases as well. So if you wanted to protect your databases, Kubernetes, Ansibles, so that can also be done support. So in this particular case, we do support Postgres, MySQL, MS SQL, or even Ansibles as well. So once you connect those databases, the same way you can allocate their access and the user can access them at any point of time. So we have talked about databases, we have talked about Kubernetes, we have talked about operating systems or the servers. We will talk about the web applications as well. So web applications like AWS also becomes a very critical part of your infrastructure. If you noticed one thing, I was never entering any sort of passwords while accessing these resources because all these passwords are being stored in a password vault. So we have our own vault where you can basically secure these passwords without sharing the password to the user. User can basically have the access and this will basically mitigate the risk of password sharing as well as the user cannot access it outside the PAM server. Also, we can have your own password vault if you have something like a GCP Secret Manager, AWS, HashiCorp, or any one of them. If you wanted to have an integration with HSM tools, that is also possible with the help of miniOrange. Now, when I go back to this web application section, in some cases, you might be having some sort of requirements where you do not want to share the credential with the users. Like for example, if you have your AWS account and you do not want to share those credentials, so you can basically add a web application or a desktop application in miniOrange to give the access of without sharing the passwords. I'll go back to this My WebEx section. Over here, I can just click on this access button that will basically communicate with that particular website. It can be AWS or anything and bring that AWS session in my browser itself. The same way it will basically communicate everything, put in the credentials and do everything for me without me doing anything. So in this particular case, I am entering username and then the password without entering anything by myself. And I can access the website. This video will also be recorded as well. Last but not least, we have a ticketing system as well. So for example, when somebody wants to have access of something, so instead of direct having access of everything, you can have a just-in-time access. So whenever somebody requires an access, then only they are having that access. So the user can basically create a ticket, define the reason of the access, from what time to what time they need the access, and who can approve it. If you wanted to have a custom approval system, where basically minimum 2 approvals will be required for certain things, or basically having some sort of mandatory approvals, you can mention it over here. These are all configurable. We have one more feature, that is the network scanner. This basically allows you to basically scan your whole infrastructure and bring all the privileged accounts into the PAM solution by automatically without you manually entering those things. So in this way, you can definitely protect all the privileged accounts. And this basically gives you the zero trust which you want to achieve. No user is having any access to these things. No operating system, no endpoints, no network devices, anything. So because the users are not having anything direct access and everything is already audited as well. So in that way, PAM basically provides you zero trust, where the users cannot perform anything without the permission of the PAM solution. So this is about PAM. I'll hand it over again to Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep. I think PAM plays a very important role in maintaining sanity when it comes to the infrastructure. It always restores the functionality, it always safeguards the privilege accesses. And definitely when it comes to knowing exactly who is accessing what, and a lot of RDP and SSS sessions are going around, and PAM is the only solution who gives you a dashboard through which you exactly know who is RDPing into what kind of critical infrastructure is being safeguarded. So at least in order to, because there are so many players are there in the PAM market, but how miniOrange PAM is different, how it is addressing the pain point by making it so simple, that can be experienced by scheduling a demo with us. So moving forward, we have another pillar in the Zero Trust network, which is CASB, Cloud Access Security Broker. One of the main pillars where you can actually fine-grain the controls, where you can deploy the rules. For example, in Google Drive, if you want some user not to download the files, not to print the file, drop the sharing requirement, all this kind of granularity can be achieved with CASB when it comes to the cloud applications. So I'm having my colleague Dhruv in the call, who will present you the very comprehensive solution what miniOrange has built to the CASB part as well. So over to you, Dhruv, for the CASB offerings. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav, for the introduction. Let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, so it should be visible. So Cloud Access Security Broker is basically for the cloud applications. So you saw the first level of security at the identity and access management, which we are capable of. But now we talk about the CASB. So once the user has the access of applications like the Office 365 or the Google Workspace of Atlassian, then after the access, there is no control over the admin have. So in this particular scenario, our CASB solution is provided with the agent using which we can configure the granular access control over these applications, or the real-time adaptive restrictions like the IP restriction, time-based restriction, or maybe the location-based restriction for a different sets of users. There's a data protection policy as well, where you can define which data should be downloaded, which data should be protected. And if you want to protect all the data from your cloud to be downloaded, you can do that as well. And there's one session management as well feature which you can configure. So any user visits the any application like the Google Docs, it goes via the Cloud Access Security Broker. For the authentication, it goes to the IAM. But once the user is authenticated successfully, all the request goes via the CASB itself. And our CASB protects the application data based on the security tools configured. Right now, we have configured, these are the applications which are the predefined configured on our dashboard. And you can also configure any cloud application you want. So let me just quickly walk you through with the admin panel part. So this is the CASB dashboard, where you can see all the predefined applications. Right now, for this scenario, I have configured the Google Workspace here. These are the basic metadata exchange, which you can configure here to make the connection with the Google Workspace. Here are the groups which I have configured right now for this. There's a US time group, for example, and the Indian time group. These user groups can access only this application, like the Gmail application. So if I talk about the app restriction here, basically my time-based policy and the database policy is going to be applied on the Gmail application. But as you're aware that sometimes user needs to access the calendar application even after the other times. So we have configured no restriction for that. And even if you want to block any specific application, you can disable that application as well. And if you want to configure any custom policy which is not part of this particular group, you can apply a specific custom policy as well from here. So similarly, we have configured one Indian time group as well. Now, moving forward with the part of the policy here, first the US time policy, where if we talk about the policies, we can configure IP restriction. We can define the number of IPs from which your application should be accessible. There is a time-based restriction. You can define the time and at what time it should start the accessing and what time it should end. You can also enable the prevent download option, which basically applies on all the Google Workspace application like Google Docs, Gmail, Drive. It prevents the users to download any file which is uploaded over there on your cloud. There's a location-based restriction policy which you can configure here and define the specific locations from which the application should be accessible. If you want to do the very fine-grained access control on those scenarios on the data protection, you can enable this option where you can define which file extension should be allowed and which file extension should be denied. And last but not least, this is the disable copy option where you can enable and just prevent the users to copy the data from the manual copy paste. So this was the part of the policy. If we talk about the end user part for the same user, so I have configured two groups here. One is the Indian time US group. Let's say in the US group, there is one user, which is the Dhruv@clementinesecurity.com. If I go here, this is the end user part, which access this particular end user dashboard, where you can see the Dhruv user is already logged in after the single sign-on. If I go to the email and try to access any of my PDF file or any document, even if I try to download, I cannot download this file. So this is how the end user part works. We have agent and agentless both the solution. So this was the part of the predefined application. Let's say if you have any cloud application which is the self-hosted, then you can just configure the domain here and provide the SSL certs. And based on the reverse proxy technology, we can connect with any third-party cloud SaaS applications and apply the same policies. So we just need to define the path here. For example, a path where the application should be running and the upstream URL, which is the server URL. And we just need to configure that. Once we configure that, we can just simply apply those policy on the cloud SaaS applications as well. So yeah, that's it. Over to you, Gaurav.
Thank you, Dhruv. So CASB plays a very important role because when it comes to the application, the cloud applications, the fine-grained access can be monitored. And as Dhruv was mentioning that whether it's Google apps, whether it's Atlassian, whether it's Shopify, all the apps, the granularity where you can define that which user can access what kind of level, whether they would be allowed to access in Google Drive, download the pages, or, share something outside the network. So all this granularity plays a very important role. And, you can always schedule a demo with us for the CASB offering. And it is always a part of an ecosystem. And as most of you are from South America and North America region, the CASB and the identity and access management plays a very important role in secure your entire infrastructure. PAM safeguards the infra while CASB protects the application. So that combination is lethal. And many of the compliance advocates to deploy CASB as well as IAM in your environment. And we are proud to say that we are one of the few vendors in the market who is having the CASB solution as well as the comprehensive identity and access management. So here is a time for a short poll. We'll pause for 30 odd seconds. I request all of the participants, to engage yourself in this short poll. We'll have after this poll a DLP solution. Again, we started this solution based on the request from the customers. We have built this solution. You can see the capabilities because this is again a very important block or very important piece in organization to safeguard the attacks, to actually scan it and prevent it in the various forms. So, and as I mentioned at the starting of the webinar, you can post your question and answers in the chat window. I think most of you have posted, but if you again have questions, we have a capable engineering team who can answer it. Towards the end of this webinar, which might be around 7 minutes from now, it has been extended because of the demo and live offering. We will have an interactive session with the participants. So anyone who want to ask the question, interact with the team, now we'll have a good time there. So it's a time for DLP solution. So I'm having Prashant in the call, who is my colleague and, architect of DLP solution, who will be showcasing, the offerings about DLP. Over to you, Prashant. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav, for the introduction. Let me share my screen. Is my screen visible? Okay. So I will be presenting our DLP solution. So we have, we offer endpoint DLP as well as the email DLP as part of our feature set. So using our DLP, you can basically protect your data from going outside of the organizations. So as my colleagues previously mentioned, you can apply MFA, SSO, and CASB over to your servers and to your applications. Now coming to the part where what will happen to the data that is already on your laptops or your employees' laptops. So it is also important to note that this particular data cannot go outside of your infrastructure, and this particular part will come into play. Will basically go through the feature set and how the data can be leaked. So one of the part where your employees can leak the data is through peripheral devices or basically removable devices like USBs, hard drives, SSDs. So we have a solution that will basically prevent the data leakage from the peripheral devices. The other thing that employees can do is forward the emails or sensitive information via emails. They can also share or upload the files from their laptop to any third party or any internet site, for example, Dropbox or something like that. This particular set of data leakage is basically prevented by our solution. And we will go through a couple of examples and then we will see the demo. So here is a little representation of how our whole infrastructure will work. You can basically see that if a user visits mails.google.com, which is basically an email site, it can be any site on the internet. So every request or everything that is going outside of your employees' network will pass through a DLP agent, which will be connected to our DLP server. This DLP server can be hosted on-premise, as well as you can use our cloud solution as well. This particular network is processed by our DLP agent, and we apply basically classification. You can use these classification to classify data into private, confidential, or public or information. And according to that, you can take action. For example, you can just report that action, you can block it, or you can just notify the customer or warn the employee that you are doing something wrong and you should not do it. Okay. So this is the part where endpoint DLP, how the endpoint DLP look like. So I will give you an example of how this will look like. So I have a very particular site which says dlptest.com. Okay. So in this particular DLP test site, we will basically have option to either send text messages or upload the files. I will show you a couple of files, how we protect the different kind of extensions or files of different type with sensitive data from being uploaded on the internet. So it can be any site, not just dlptest.com, but it can be any site. Okay. So let's try to upload this test files that I have already created. So I have two files which says docx with sensitive files and docx without sensitive files. So currently I will be uploading the sensitive file, and you could say that I got a notification that you have been blocked from uploading a docs file. That's because we have configured the policy such that it cannot be uploaded over the internet. You can also see that we got an error on the site as well. And the same thing can be done on any internet site. So for example, let's say I have an email and I'm trying to attach a sensitive file here as well. So as soon as I try to upload that sensitive file, I will be basically prompted that this is not something you can do. And all of this activity is being reported into our dashboard where admins can see or your SOC team can see which particular device tried to upload which file. And you can also set up some notification system using which you will get real-time alerts about these malicious activity. So this is a particular example of how the endpoint DLP looks like. And I will show you a couple of more features as well. For example, let's go to first our dashboard. And if you see this particular dashboard, whenever an agent is basically installed on your any of your employees' laptop or VMs or any machine that you like to protect or install the DLP agent, you just install the agent. It will basically come up here. You can assign it or make a set of rules based on the device groups. And these rules are basically divided into two parts. One is device policy and another is email policy. So on your device policy, you have restriction placed on USBs, that is basically peripheral devices. You can define which particular group will have access to which USB. So for example, you can also define a USB type that can be whitelisted. Okay. So same goes for the internet, Ethernet, and desktop app as well. So this is basically a demo application or demo policy. So in this particular policy, we have assigned this current test laptop to block a specific product or basically say files with a specific classification or regex rules on it. These are called classification, and you can fine grain those access based on the device group that we have earlier seen in the dashboard. You can also block a specific site from being accessed. For example, let's say there is a torrent site or there is some gaming site that you don't want to allow your users to access. You can block it using our agent as well. It's similar to like a firewall rules, but much simpler. So coming to the classification part, you can basically create your custom rules. Like for example, if you want to basically have keywords or regex, so you can define what kind of regex our agent needs to find in the request or the data that is going outside of your network. And based on that, you can take action. So coming back to that policy again. So if you go back to the policy and see that we have a classification section, which will basically say what kind of regex we need to check. We have a section which says what kind of domains a device or device group can access. You can also define what kind of files that can go outside and we need to apply classification on. And there are a couple of more things. For example, you can set up alert system based on the policy, based on the destination. For example, you want to apply notification system on desktop apps or on websites or Ethernet policies. You can do that. Coming back to the part for the email DLP, this was all about the endpoint DLP part, where the agent will sit on your laptop and it will monitor the network, it will monitor the peripheral devices, and based on that, it will take action. Okay, so I will just quickly go over to the email policy once so that you can know how the email DLP is different from endpoint DLP. So in endpoint DLP, basically there is an agent sitting on your employee's device that monitors the request. The email DLP is basically something different. So let's say your user tries to access your Gmail account from a different laptop where there is no agent installed in there, and he tries to forward an email with sensitive information to, let's say, any third party or any of your competitors, or to his personal Gmail as well. Okay, so this is also a breach. So we basically set up a SMTP relay on your Gmail or Outlook, and every email that goes through your email provider will go through this email DLP server, where again the classification and the rules that we created on the dashboard will be applied, and based on that you can take action. So going back to the email policy, so we have two couple of options. For example, you can either block the email that is being classified by the DLP. You can also quarantine it. So in quarantine, basically, if a user is basically happen to have some sensitive information sending outside of the organization, that email will be forwarded to a line manager or a manager, and based on that, based on the action of the line manager, it can go to the recipients or it can be blocked. So your line manager can also decide what needs to be done, because not always you will be able to decide if that particular regex or that policy is right at the runtime or not. So you can take a human factor as well, and based on that you can fine tune your regex or policies so that it matches your company's compliance. In the email DLP, you can put restriction on outgoing emails. For example, if you only want to send, you don't want to allow users to send email to Gmail or Yahoo or something like that, you can basically define a list of domains that you need to block. In case you want to apply a whitelist policy, you can basically define the domains that will be allowed for the email recipients. You can also apply restriction on attachment file type. For example, you want to allow text, zip, docx, ppt, and all those extension, or you want to block a specific file type based on their extension as well. The classification that I talked about earlier can be applied on email body, subject, or even to the attachment. It is fine-grained to the different level, and you can also assign it to a specific set of users. Okay, and this is it. Along with it, we have a feature where you can basically specify what kind of email domains are allowed to log in into your into the laptops. For example, I have a system here where we have installed the agent, and as you could see that I have basically mentioned that only securify.com and miniOrange.in are basically in the allowed domains. So if your employee tried to log in using their personal Gmail account, they will be basically blocked from being accessed that particular email account. So I think this is pretty much it from the DLP perspective. I think I will hand it over to the Gaurav again. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. So I think it was very good representation of the contextual mapping that you do with data loss prevention. And I think the dashboard which you had seen, all the participants, that is consisting of all the required, controls that is required to actually scan your network, whether it is through email or whether it is through some other endpoints. You can block the USB and REST part. So very comprehensive solution. And we have a short poll for you, and we have a last element remaining. We'll wrap up in next 5 minutes, which is MDM. And MDM is nothing but now the entire cyber security ecosystem is talking about device management, mobile device management. We started building this product from last 3 quarters, and we have achieved, a few use cases which could be a part of a critical infrastructure to get protected. So there is a short poll visible on your screen, and after that we'll have an interactive session. If any one of you wanted to interact with our engineering team, please raise your hand or post the some questions on our Q&A part, and we'd be happy to answer. So I'm having Dhruv again, who will showcase a very quick demo about our MDM offerings. Over to you, Dhruv.
Thank you, Gaurav. Let me just quickly share my screen. Okay. So if we talk about the MDM, so basically management of the devices. So right now the solutions which we have is basically we provide a dashboard where the admins can just simply enroll the user devices. For example, you saw the Gmail workspace restriction with the help of IAM, CASB, and the DLP. But if you talk about the mobile devices like the Android or the iOS, which generally employees are using to access their Gmail or the chat applications within their mobile for the easiness. So the SOC team, the admin, can simply just send a QR code to all the end users via the email or by enroll by themselves on the admin panel. And the Android users just need to scan the QR code. And once they're scanning the QR code, their work profile is being created in their mobile phones. So if we talk about the work profile, it looks like this one. So for example, in an Android phone, there's a personal profile and the work profile, which is being created. And all the applications and the management within the work profile will be managed by the IT admin. And there is no access or the restriction of our MDM product on their personal profile. So the supported devices type are basically BYOD, bring your own device. Generally, all the organizations, users or the employees are having their own phone to accessing the work applications. But we do have the option of company-owned devices as well, in which we have the control of the complete Android phones or the iOS phone. The supported OS are the Android and Apple iOS for now. And the policies which we can configure right now is the data sharing restriction. Basically, from the work environment, you cannot share any data file to their personal environment. There's a personal email restriction as well. So basically, in the work profile, they cannot log in from their personal email. And there's an app restriction. So IT admin is going to configure the applications which they want their employees to be accessible. There is no Play Store available, or they can enable that as well and define the application which should be installed. So to secure the infrastructure, whenever someone tries to access, let's say, a Gmail application, a user from a work profile, it goes via the VPN secure tunnel, so that only the applications will be accessible after the secure tunnel is connected, then only. So let me just walk you through with the admin dashboard for that. So this is our admin dashboard for the MDM. Here, under the users, you can assign the users, any user you want to configure here. You can just simply add the user with their email and the username. And for the Android, you need to configure your Android enterprise here, which we have done already right now. And under the devices section, we can just simply click on the enroll. We can select the device which we want to configure the work profile environment. You can choose the device type. It is a personal or the corporate. And there are device groups which we can configure here. Let's say if you have 2 types of group or the 3 types of group, we can configure the multiple device groups over there, and we can just simply select any of the device group. And we have the enrollment type as well by user invite. That means they'll have an email with the QR code. And if an IT admin wants to do by themselves, so they just show the enrollment details and it will create a QR code for them. So once the user enroll this particular QR code in their mobile phone, we can apply any policy which we want. So right now we have configured one policy, which is the G Suite restriction, the Google Workspace restriction over the VPN only. So when I see the application, so right now you can see in the settings, there's a all application setting is auto update is always on right now, and the runtime permissions are also for the prompt. But if you go to the applications, I can select any application from the Play Store. Let's say if I want to configure the WhatsApp, I can just simply search for the WhatsApp and add that application from there. And simply this application will go into my work profile. There are some applications which I have already configured, like the Chrome, Gmail, Drive, and the VPN. VPN is for accessing all the application from my VPN secure tunnel only. And even the VPN configuration profile, we can configure it from the MDM dashboard. We can just simply upload the file here, which is going to be configured on their mobile devices. So there is no user needs to configure the VPN manually. Now, if we talk about the security, so we can allow the untrusted app installation. If you want to deny, we can deny it here. Even the Play Store, we can allow or by the user choice for the allowing the application from the Play Protect. There is a setting of the password setting. Basically, in the work environment, if you want to create a password, after entering that password, they are going to able access the application. Then that particular password also you can configure here based on the complexity. If you want to configure a complex or the numeric one, you can configure all these options here and create your password type for the work profile. Under the device functionalities, these are the important of the like secure screen capture. So let's say if you want users to not taking the screenshot of their work data, then you can just simply deny it here. You can also prevent them from the screen recording. You can also prevent them from the mounting the physical media. You can prevent them from accessing the camera and also the microphones. So these are the permissions over there which you can configure here to protect your data. Then the next is the data sharing. So basically from the work container, if you want to deny the transferring the files to the personal container, you can just simply deny here. You can also disable the copy paste, and there's a data sharing option as well that deny work to personal profile. And also the widgets, you can allow them to configure the widgets on their home screen. You can also deny the data transfer from the USB access, and the Bluetooth sharing is also denied, and the printing access is also denied from the mobile applications. So there's more security options, but right now, I guess this is the time. This is the last network option which we can configure over the VPN. So we can just deny here that no application should be allowed to access without the VPN. So by using these simple features, you can protect your Google Workspace infrastructure. So this was the part of the admin. Let me just walk you through of the end user part, how the end user gonna access this application. So under the Android phone, there's a personal and the work container. As you can see, it's separated. Once someone go into the personal work container, and from there in the Gmail application, if someone tries to log in with their work email, so we have applied one IP restriction policy at the time of authentication. So user won't be able to authenticate because there is no IP whitelisted profile over there. If someone goes to the work profile, as you can see, there is a work OpenVPN profile is there, the VPN profile, which is already configured from the admin panel. And if someone tries to log in within the Gmail application from the work container, they will be able to access their work email. And the data policy which we have configured for the sharing the data from work to personal, they won't be able to share the data as well. So that's how, as you can see, everything is going via the VPN tunnel itself. So the complete restriction on the application is restricted. So I guess, yeah, that's it from my end. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you, Dhruv. I think the in-house capability of miniOrange MDM is quite impressive. If you wanted to have a detailed look over it, please reach out to us. And it was nice webinar when it comes to the entire Zero Trust network. And that's what we have for today's webinar. We would like to thank all our participants who has patiently, stayed with us towards the end of this webinar. Jyotin, if you are there, would like to say a few words. SecureFlow is our trusted partner in United States, and they have been our pillar for most of the clients, which we are serving from the continent. Jyotin, over to you. Jyotin, are we audible? I think Jyotin might have issues in his mic, I guess, but Jyotin, are you there?
I think there is some issue with this connection or something.
Okay. So, no fine, but heartfelt thanks to the SecureFlow team, specifically Jyotin, Karunakar, the entire team who has put the efforts to get as many as participants, to this webinar. Also would like to thank Oscar, Daniel, and Seth from Secured Approach, and definitely would like to collaborate more on this part as well. Anyone wanted to interact? Anyone have any questions? We can chat. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand or you can post the question in chat window. Otherwise, we are done for this webinar. You can reach out to us on idpsupport@securify.com for any issues. You can reach out to our partner, SecureFlow, for any of our offerings, and they will be happy to serve you guys as well. Thank you, everyone. It was nice talking to you, and we'll be lining up another set of webinar in months' time. We'll keep you informed. And thank you once again from the entire miniOrange family to be a part of this webinar. I again like to thank all of my colleagues, Akshata, who has helped her the entire webinar planning and rest of. Thank you to Pradeep, Mahesh, Saurabh, Prashant, and Dhruv, and the entire the miniOrange workforce for this webinar to be successful. Thank you. Signing off for the day. Have a good night. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Yeah.
So I'm back.
Yeah, Jyotin.
Good to have them.
Yeah.
So, thank you to Gaurav and all the presenters, including Dhruv, Prashant, Mahesh, and everybody else who participated from a miniOrange perspective, put together this great presentation. I think we got a very good, comprehensive view into solving business problems around identity and access and zero trust. They have really put together solutions that cover the overall life cycle from an identity and access management perspective, both from the cloud, but also from on-premise. And we look forward to working with miniOrange and their team because of not only the efforts they put in, but also because it really does address specific problems that the enterprise has today, and allows for organizations to protect data, protect assets, protect endpoints in this very volatile environment, especially as we move into AI and IoT. There is going to be more of a need for IAM solutions and zero trust. And I think this, from our perspective, we look forward to this partnership with miniOrange. Thank you. Thanks for everybody else who joined the conference.
Thank you, Jyotin. Looking forward for the long-lasting relationship. And thank you all. Have a good day, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Jyotin.